Hello people, welcome to Borderless, the podcast, where we host unhinged and must-have conversations on societal issues as they relate to the boy child. My name is Tawakalt, OlaOluwa, and with me,
ImisiOluwa Adeniran.
On today's episode of Borderless, the podcast, we'll be discussing a very important topic that is fundamental to what this podcast is about. And the subject matter is, who is a boy child? Missing answer the question.
Well, so I think we're bringing down to our face and who the boy child is. We'll be able to understand that the boy child is a child experiencing whatever everyone is experiencing as a child, but as a boy. These are experiences which are universal. Everybody experiences that childhood experience of being a child. But as a boy, your experience is different. As a boy in Singapore, as a boy in Nigeria, as a boy in Ghana, we have different experiences. But the experience itself is childhood. So the boy child is that child who is experiencing the childhood experience, but as a boy. And this is a vital issue which is part of our society.
So a boy child is basically a gender identity that identifies an individual, where an individual identifies as a boy. So if I see it's a gender identity, basically.
Yeah, it's a gender identity, but it's not a matter of identification. It is a matter of what you are experiencing yourself, because this is what you are by default experiencing. Identifying artists is a form of empathy. You are trying to feel for it. You're trying to make sure you're sharing this experience. But this is your default mode. This is how you've been growing up, how you grow up. So the idea of the boy child is somebody who's experienced that same childhood everyone is experiencing. But as a boy, the childhood is modified. The childhood becomes kind of, a different modification of experiences, influences from here and there, which shapes him to become a better person or otherwise.
Yes, so why do you think that we should have conversations about the boy child? I mean, we're adults. I am not a mother yet, and of course, I don't believe you have a child yet. So, why should we have conversations about the boy child? Why not focus on the men? Why focus on the boy child?
It is high time we talked about this. Whether why or having the conversation itself, it is high time we talked about this. And thank God for Boys Without Border for bringing the conversation as borderless. Because if you look at it without talking about it, some people will see it as a norm and something not to be bothered about. But this is really something you should be bothered, and that's why we are bringing it to you as something borderless. Because if we do not bring the discourse to your face, to your hearing, how would you know that actually this is what we are experiencing? But it is just like a wave of the smoke that just come and pass without any impact. But no, this has to come to your eyes and it has to itch you, or you just scrub it, or you actually address the issue with an optician, or you. So this is a very vital issue in our society. You need to deal with it. We need to identify with it. We need to identify it. We need to know it. Everybody has to. The same way you see other discussions in the society, the same way you see other issues in the society, so also is the issue of the boy child. The boy child is not left out. He is integral in our society. It's part of what we are experiencing. It's part of what we see in the society. So the discussion around the boy child is necessary. That is very necessary. So that is the why. It is necessary and it is needed.
Looking from my point of view, I feel that the conversations around boy child are important for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is that the boy child eventually becomes the man. The boy becomes the man. The boy is the father of the man, as one of our scholars said. And it means basically that there cannot be a functional man if we do not raise functional boy child. And that means that it's important for us to have conversations about the boy child, because while we're having conversations around the boy child and their experiences, like you mentioned, during childhood, we'll see how those experiences are influencing them in adulthood as men, and how we can help to change the narrative so that we can have more functional male. Because we already have men that are grown old, that their experiences as boy child was not so rosy and functional. But when we have conversations around the boy child, they are able to identify these flaws in their upbringing, these issues that they had, and we can be able to better profile solutions. They can be able to get the required help that they need. And also, of course, Imisi, I hope that one day you're going to become a father.
Well, everybody would definitely, every man, most men would actually wish to be a father one day. And when you immediately become a father, you are raising boys. So, amen. And it's either in your like, or you are trying to, modifying against what you've been. For somebody who has acknowledged, issue he or she has faced when he was young or not. So, issue of being a father one day is a matter of taking the responsibility of raising another boy. What do you want him to experience? So, what does the boy child experience?
Basically, functional men, may we be them, may we raise them, and basically, may we know them. And to have functional men, we have to have a functional boy child. That's why conversations around boy child are important. And that is basically what Borderless, the podcast, is about. We're trying to have conversations about boy child in a way that can help us to have functional men in the society. We want a society where the boy child is seen as important and vital as it should be. And this brings me to one of the major issues that we have in the present society, and it is on the various popular opinions, notions, and myths that we have about the boy child. For example, there's this popular notion that people have that the boy child is not supposed to perform house chores, that performing house chores reduce their ability to become functional men. They lose their masculinity in the process of performing house chores. What do you think about that?
Well, when you were trying to talk about the issue of the popular opinion notions about the boy child, I think I'll try to hit it to somebody's ear listening to me at the moment and make you know that, you see, every child is not a boy, but that boy is actually experiencing childhood, and that boy could be a child. So, and he's a child himself. So, if you see a boy now to experience in an instance of, your domestic duties and domestic responsibility which you need to face, you must be able to know that that childhood experience is for the boy. That childhood experience is for him to experience also. Do not make him miss that childhood experience, and do not make him be a worst person from being a child, because don't give him trauma while growing. Don't build up people with PTSD while growing. Make sure that the issue of domestic duties or any kind of domestic duties, you must be able to know that that boy, he has something to do in the kitchen. That boy, he has something to do while growing up with his sister, with his mother, with his father. So that childhood experience for the boy should be waved on him, not to be waved away. Should be put on, let him know it. And don't make the boy a man. The boy is a boy, but he's a boy child. So don't raise men when they are still boys. Make sure you raise boy. Let them know gradually. You can't choke the boy with responsibility, but you can actually make the boy experience childhood. That's just the basic. Because a boy will definitely grow up to be a man if God will spare his life.
So basically, while you're trying to raise a boy, you should not let them lose that experience of childhood. The child in the boy child should not be missing at any point.
Yes.
There's no reason, as much as we're trying to raise responsible children that become responsible adults, we should allow them to experience their childhood. And part of experiencing childhood is not putting unnecessary responsibility on them.
Thank you.
And also letting them grow up as people who do not see that certain responsibility are gender exclusive or inclusive. Because it really bothers me. I know of an example where the mother, whenever she is doing house chores, she's separated for the women, and for our girls, while the boys don't even know these simple basic house chores. And it kind of prevented them from being the functional men that they should be. And in the process of her trying to assert a gender role, she ended up creating rearing a man that cannot be able to take care of himself, that's not responsible for himself. And that brings up an issue.
What's the issue?
It brings up an issue of a man that is not responsible enough to be able to cater for himself, because as a child, he was taught to know that certain duties are meant for certain other people to perform on his behalf, which is very wrong.
You know, that goes back to one thing which you mentioned earlier, and I will kind of reverberate it, which is that make this boy experience this childhood and do make it exclusive, do make it inclusive for whichever gender. You know, it is easy for us in this society to have men who are eventually becoming child in a way than for us to have just men. You know what I mean by men becoming child, in the sense that when you now see a man who is opening up his hands, trying to say, who will cook food for me? Who will help me wash my clothes? Who will help me wash my this thing? You know, this is a childhood experience you would have experienced yourself. And it will make you functional as a man when you have grown up. But the functionality, they've not allowed you to experience it when you were a boy. And that is where this is our idea of boy child. Because that boy child is these things you need to grow up with. Grow up with it. And do not grow up with it in the sense that in the manner of segregation, in the manner of exclusivity for one place. You see, childhood, as I said it earlier, is universal. But the manner which we experience it does make it endemic. You experience childhood as a Nigerian. You experience childhood as an Australian. You know, they are quite different. But, you know, the boy child experience tells you that what is that role you play while growing up as a child? What is that role you were given while growing up as a child? And what are those exposure you had while growing up as a child? So, the boy child experience and the issue of exclusivity and knowing where you belong, when you want to do some things and when you want to grow up, gives us a quite question on raising functional men. How do you become a functional man? You can become a functional man when you experience a good childhood.
So basically, you're saying that the foundation of functional
men
is a good childhood. And it brings me to this question of, you were talking about how we should raise the boy as a child. What do you think about the popular notion of, he's going to be a man one day, he should start learning to be it? You see, in some families, there are family dynamics where the boy is already expected to perform the role. For example, some mothers will say, oh, he's my husband. He is going to be your father one day. He's the father when the father is not around, so to speak. And as a result of that, the boy has to go faster because he has started having responsibilities and duties that are not fit for his age. Because why should a boy child be worried about finances? Of course, we can teach them financial intelligence, financial literacy, so that they can grow up as functional men. But it's different from asking a boy child to be the one providing for the family. What do you think?
It is a deficit we have in our society. And as I said, deficit, it is really, really misconfiguring our present realities. When you start, just as you cited an example of a boy, choking him with that financial responsibility, that fatherhood responsibility as a boy child, thank God for this podcast, because it will make you know that in this society we are raising our boys. We are making them men before they become boys. We are exposing them to fatherhood, even not experiencing manhood yet. We are making them father already. So you see, like an instance whereby you have a family of 3, you have a family of 5, or you may have a family of 4, whereby you have a boy and a girl as the children, and they have the father and the mother. Maybe you now have instance of the father being absent always at home, or some instances absent in the house. You see instance where the mother will be calling out to the boy and be like, oh, Junior, make sure you watch out for your sister. I'm going out, I'm coming. In fact, in some cases, the boy might be the younger one while the sister is the eldest. This is a very quick responsibility. It might be humanistic in nature, but a message you are sending to the boy is not about being humane with his sister or being responsible, but you are already giving him an upper hand rather, in making the boy feel, I am responsible for this sister. It would have been for you as the mother or as the father to be, make sure you watch out for both one another, for both self. Make sure that both of you watch out for one another. Sister, make sure you watch your brother. Brother, make sure you watch you follow the orders of your sister.
But you're looking at it from one point. Don't you think that the mother was basically trying to groom people to be a protector?
Mm-hmm.
And to come into that role that's expected of men in the society as the protector of the female gender?
That role as a protector, who protects? Does the man gives absolute protection? Mm-hmm. Or protection is inclusive? Everybody is included in the security of lives and property. As much as I may be trying to protect you, if you are unwilling to be protected, I can't protect you.
So basically, it should be mutual. So while you're training the boy to protect, you should also train the girl to protect.
Yes, not even to be protected. Make sure you train her to protect also. The little I can control. You see, the way human beings are wired is there's an interconnection for everything. Nobody is an island for anything. You can't do it alone, even when you have all the capacity. You can't protect your sister alone. She has to protect you too. Because if you are not protected, you won't be able to protect me. So all these things are interwoven. For any kind of society you find yourself, for any kind of situation you find yourself, people should be involved in what you do. We should not raise men that should be egocentric in their responsibility.
So basically, men should learn to the boy child should be trained to want to love and be loved, to protect and be protected, to trust and be trusted, to cherish and be cherished. And in the process, we make an wholesome human.
You are raising a dysfunctional society. The same way you are raising a woman, to be more dependent when she's young, is the same way you are raising that man too. So you will end up raising men, raising boys whose head has been, concocted to believe that they own it all. You see, there's a thin line of border. But once you just cross it, that's all. You wouldn't know that you've crossed it. You might be feeling as if, okay, I should protect my sister, but once you've crossed that line, you don't know that you've crossed the line. You still feel like, I'm still protecting my sister.
Become overbearing.
You've become overbearing. So these are men that become overbearing in society. But if you are raising a man that should protect his sister, and he's saying that his sister is protecting him too, there's a balance. A very balance in the society. So the society is no longer becoming, taxonomical any longer. There's nobody above another. We are all going in place together. We are all moving together.
While you're on that train of thought, it brings me to the question of gender roles. Do you think that gender roles are necessary or not? Should we even have gender roles? Should there be something that as a woman and someone who used to be a girl child should do, and something that you should do because you are of the male gender?
What I should do because I'm a male gender. In much of our capacity, there is a little shade or a little bit of capacity which we can go beyond. Take for instance, as much as I am talking, there is a place whereby I omit. And you help me fill up the gap. And when you fill up the gap, my sentences are complete. And we continue the discourse. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I get you.
I am incapacitated, but you are capacitated at that moment, and it fills up my space, and we have no problem. Gender roles then is that aspect which I am incapacitated, not entirely my weakness, but that place which everybody is now functioning for one another.
So basically, you're saying that a person's role or responsibility in a setting should be a basis of their individual capability and ability.
As well as their gender capability.
Okay, what are the things that you think are gender capabilities?
You see, for instance, if you are a boy and you are able to run in a very fast pace, I say go pick this thing. Everybody goes, you are the boy, you pick it up. That is your capacity. Oh my God.
Your capability. But do you
Yes.
think that just a boy can run and pick it? I mean, there are girls who run faster than boys in the same age.
Hey, that is it. You see, that the capacity which you have is not, I will say this for a fact, your disadvantage is not your weakness. My weakness is not my disadvantage.
So what is it?
The fact that I am weak in this aspect is actually a gap which
That
could be
somebody
filled.
else can.
It is not a weakness. It is not what I am disadvantaged about. The fact that as a very young boy, I can carry 3 kg gas for mommy does not mean that because my sister cannot carry it, she is weak entirely. She's disadvantaged entirely.
But doesn't that mean that in a family, then you should let the boy carry the 3 kg gas, like you said, while the girl?
But you should not take it absolute. He does not own it up. What if we have men who don't have capacity to lift the thing?
See, it still comes to the same junction where I am at, and that is the fact that gender roles, from my standpoint, are not necessary, especially when they are restrictive and exclusive of certain category or certain gender. When you restrict a gender to a certain role and you exclude another gender from that role, you prevent individuals who do not have capability of performing that role that they've been restricted.
That exclusion is what we are talking about in gender role. When you exclude somebody, you're already creating a path for them to just sit, for them to just know, okay, I can't go to this place, I can't make attempt to this place. Just as we said, we are raising boys, we are raising people too, for us to have a functional society. We are not making this totally exclusive. I mean, something is an advantage for you, it's not absolute for you. Something is what you have a strength in, it's not absolute for you, because a day is coming, the person that you think her gender is not able to do it, that same gender will come one day and disgrace you in that aspect.
So we've come to the conclusion that gender roles should not be exclusive.
It shouldn't be exclusive.
And I really feel that is one of the things that Boys Without Borders struggle. We advocate as an organization for a society where they are functional men. Our boys are raised not to believe that certain roles are exclusive to them and certain roles they are excluded from certain roles. Because as much as people believe that gender roles, they are exclusive in the sense that they empower one over the other, I also feel that they make one gender vulnerable as well, and it is not a win-win. It's not a win-lose situation. Both sides are losing. Because when you exclude the female gender from performing a certain role, you also exclude
the male gender
from
it is simple. If my mommy says, Imisi, do not enter this kitchen when I'm cooking, but I want you to see in the kitchen, I will grow up and be in the university one day, and I will look for a way to taste my mommy's food, and I want to make a prototype of it, but I'll end up opening my mouth and only breeze will enter my stomach.
Because you're unable to.
Because I've been incapacitated in that capacity. So they've already incapacitated me. Not that I am incapacitated naturally in it.
So in our bid to strengthen people's natural abilities, we should not incapacitate them or make them vulnerable as a result of their gender. And I believe that is one of our goals as in Boys Without Borders, We want a situation where men can be able to have unhinged, you must have conversations about boys in our society. I particularly like the fact that we know that for every issue that is related to the boy child, it affects the society. It is not, it is just, it relates to the boy, and it has nothing to do with the society, because like you said in the beginning, a boy is a part of the society. What would you like, on this topic, what would you like to be your parting word?
I have a lot of parting words, but don't forget this is borderless. But everything flows in between itself, and you'll be able to understand that. You see, we can have men child when we raise boys that we don't let them be child. If you have a man that you are seeing exhibiting some trait, please look at it as his background and make sure that the boy he or she is raising rather does not become like him, but rather make that boy experience that state of being a child.
So it is important for us to all have a society where we see a boy as a child, and we allow them to have their experiences of childhood so that they can become functional.
Well, this is Borderless, the podcast.